how the whole industry, the society is actually moving forward with the emerging technology. So today we have our guest, which actually needs no introduction. So we have Mr. Nandagopal Rajan. He is the editor of New Media and business head of IndianExpress.com. He's also a respected technology journalist with over 15 years of reporting experience in the industry. He has a keen interest in emerging technology, gadgets, and intersection of technology and society. And seriously, I would say that people should really look at his reviews before buying devices because seriously, they're really awesome. So Nandakumar holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Calicut University and PG diploma in English journalism from Indian Institute of Mass Communication, which is one of the most reputed institution in terms of journalism. He has a weekly tech podcast, Own Your Own, Our Own Devices, and which gives listeners the insight of latest trends, what's happening in the world of technology. And to be very frank, he also interviews one of the biggest names in industry. He started his career in Hindustan Times as a member of launch team of the Chandigarh edition in early 2000. And he has also worked in the India Today group, where he was writing on technology for Business Today, as well as editing gadgets and Gizmos magazine. He's also a TED speaker. So, welcome, sir, for this particular
Thank you.
webinar. Okay, and
Thank you. My pleasure.
seriously, thank you for giving us the time because I know you are always moving around and to much more bigger events than this. So, I'm still you have given us the time. That's really great, really, really great. So, let's start with this. Anyway, when I'm pronouncing your name all the time, Rajan. I'm remembering there's a Malayalam movie in called Narasimham where Mammootty's name was Nandakumar Maran. So, that's the same.
No relation of mine.
Okay, okay. Anyways, so let me set the context here. So in the last 20 years, you have been in this field of emerging technologies, at least the technology perspective for the last 20-25 years. You have seen the rise of telecommunication in India in the early 2000s, where the 2G and everything came out with advent of iPhone and Samsung in the 2008, 2009, 10, when smartphone became a big thing. And all of a sudden, a disruption called WhatsApp came out, and the SMS went out of contest, which we never thought of. This all things happened in the blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden, the Facebook and Twitter and all became the market leaders in the digital landscape. And then the COVID happened. And if you look at the COVID happened, and if you look at now the industry, the whole landscape has completely changed in terms of, first of all, it is very difficult to bet which is going to work. At least for us. I may ask your opinion after this, but at least for us, it's very, very difficult to understand exactly where the world is moving forward. It looks very hopeful. I'm not denying that fact, but
Yeah.
we still don't know exactly where it's going to work. And it's the first time we see the technological life cycle. The hype cycle in a way you can say, just to say, is not more than 12 months for most of the technologies. Before COVID, at least the internet era, if you look at it, had at least a 4 5 year cycle for at least a particular technology to go to high or low, whatever it is. Today, every technology we are talking about, uh, it's not, but the whole hype is for 12 months. After that, the new one comes in, and the world moving runs away to the next one, and to the next one, and the last one is AI. And when AI, everybody started talking about, people started forgetting about what was last 3 years of metaverse, blockchain, and other things that they were talking about. The investment has also shifted drastically in the last 12 months. So, in a nutshell, I want to ask you what you see the way the whole industry and society is moving in the last 20 years. What is your contest in terms of, especially what 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 is the contribution of COVID in terms of I'm not saying the word contribution is right, but in terms of technology, in terms of shifting the business, what is the contribution of this trigger which happened in 2020, 21?
Yeah. So again, I don't think this can be answered in a nutshell. It's a lot of things, and as you mentioned, And I think you have also missed a lot of very important things that happened in that space, right? So this is like December, right? Every year in December, you start getting these mails from companies and PR saying these are the 10, trends for next year, right? And I've been getting it for 20 years. And there are usually some keywords which keep on happening. Every year you'll get it that this is the trend. So one such keyword was cloud.
Yeah.
Right? You would say that okay, cloud computing is going to be the next best thing. I heard that for almost 10 years, right? And then you had this. I think so. Metaverse. So why I'm saying that is that there is always so even the industry. See again, if you are even a big tech company, you have to take a bet on what's going to work for the next 5 years. Because see, if you're going to launch a product 5 years down the line, you need to start working on it now, right? Even though the tech product cycles are becoming shorter and everything, right? Most of the established companies are still working on products like 4 5 years in advance, and that's when they and like a company like Apple would be even then, like even if they do the 5 year cycle, if they're not sure, they'll still not go ahead with the product, right? Because they wouldn't want to, like, even an iPhone 7, a new iPhone, which is like almost the most perfect smartphone out there, right? Because they really don't push out, experimental things into a phone or anything. Still, it ends up having some issues with, users, right? In such a situation, a company like Apple would never push in a device, a product that is half baked or a concept that is half baked, right? But which means that they're working on a lot of they let go of lot of products. You would so what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of hedging that goes on in this space. You really don't know what the future holds for you, which means is that maybe you're working on 10 things and you know that one of them will work, right? And one of them will become a product. One of them will become a product maybe even much later than realized. And again, so I think a lot of the older companies now understand this cycle and don't really jump the gun, right? A lot of companies, I think, are not mature enough to they really so because let us say if you're a startup, which became very successful initially because it did something before everybody else. And see, after that, whoever you are, that product cycle comes like, and as in, there is a fatigue that sets in on your product, right? After some time, if you are not constantly innovating and everything, it's very difficult to constantly innovate, right? After a point, even if you see smartphones, right? Smartphones have not wowed you for a long time, right? Because they've just been getting better and better and better, faster, more effective, more efficient, but they've not wowed you with a feature. Wow, like this is something that blew my mind because they are really out of ideas. So which is where the most exciting product, if you ask me, that's come out recently is the AI pin from this company called Humane, right? It's an AI pin, and see, again, I have written about it for many years now that the next thing in the smartphone space might not be a smartphone, right? It will take a lot of the learnings of the smartphone ahead, but it doesn't have to be a smartphone, right? It doesn't have to be something that you will hold in your hand. Doesn't have to be something which will have a screen, right? So you have to get out of that muscle memory and think that users have evolved enough to use products very differently, right? I'm wearing AirPods right now. I think the AirPod was actually the first move in this direction because I can talk to my AI assistant with the AirPod, and the AirPods have been doing it for many years now. Now all your earphones do it, right? It is giving you a level of intelligence in your ears, as in you can talk to somebody who's going to augment your intelligence. Now these are the kind of things which tell you. So how I look at it is that I'm seeing 2 3 signals that maybe we are taking a detour, that we are going into a next level, right? And I and again I had a conversation with somebody very senior in one of the top tech companies. It was an off the record conversation. I can't tell you who and which company, but I remember this conversation very clearly. I asked him, do you think that earphones and things like this could be, and he gave me an information that yes, this could be where it's going. Now when you look at what is happening around VR and all of that, so it's taking that experience of the smartphone to a more experiential level. So again, how also a lot of your tech has moved is that it's become more and more personal, right? Like, it is only you are using it. Like when you wear on a smartphone, still most people can see you using a smartphone. But if you're wearing an AR, and the AR glass can look like this also. If you've seen the Snapchat glass or the Ray-Ban glass from Meta, they're regular glasses, but you don't understand that the person who in front of you is actually computing, right? And it has become such, but that computing is only for him, right? So it becomes much more personal. And if you also see, what has also happened is that this element, I think, has also come um, into social media. Social media now works primarily from a personal space, which is what has created this new breed of influencers and all of that. An individual has much more power and reach than a brand. Now, this is, again, so I think a lot of it is going towards the individual, empowering the individual, and technology, and that is one shift. Now, how this impacts products, impacts software, all of this is something that you need to see. And again, so you mentioned about the 4 5 year product cycle. I think product cycles now are maybe days, right? If you look at what has happened in the AI space since ChatGPT came up, right? So many things, and you thought like almost last week ChatGPT was over also, right? But just like now for anything you have a problem to solve, you search on Google and there is an AI solution for it, right? And again, see what happens again. People think AI is something that happened last year. It did not, right? It's been in the works for 20 25 years at least. And we have had AI products for many years now. It is just that last year it hit a different kind of see. I have spoken to Andrew Ng, who is the who's the founder of Coursera, and he told me about pre-COVID. I think must be 2018 or early 2019, where he told me that AI is like electricity. It is going to be in everything that you do. Very profound statement, and I completely agree. There is AI in the Zoom call that we are using, right? There are many AI apps that I can use on a Zoom call. But even as we speak, when the network goes down, artificial intelligence is stepping in behind my head. Like I'm in my bedroom, but behind my head, AI is constantly figuring out where my head ends and where it should start showing the background. So these guys again. I mentioned cloud computing. Cloud was already there. You were not realizing it. People did not realize that when you were using Gmail, you were using cloud, right? But we thought cloud would be something that will hang above our heads or something like that. But cloud was there. Cloud is in everything that we do now. The Zoom call is actually happening on cloud. If you record it, when I record a Zoom call, I usually record it on the cloud, right? And again, it gives you so much convenience, right? You really don't need to use a computer with a hard with a with a hard drive in it or memory or anything, because you can do it all on cloud now using a thin client kind of computing. So the possibilities are endless on how technology is here. But can you see crystal ball gaze into what the future holds? No, right? Like and again, like just to give you an example, look at the metaverse, right? Facebook went and betted in for the metaverse. A lot of other companies, even now I'm getting, yeah, but metaverse I think was a dud, right? You thought everything is going to veer towards metaverse and suddenly you'll all be wearing VR glasses and everything. Suddenly AI came up, people were more excited by AI than it was with metaverse. But the problem was metaverse had an access issue. How do you access the metaverse? Right? Like, you are a company, you have opened a store on the metaverse. For me to open it, I'm going to buy a $3,000 VR glass to buy a 300 rupee t-shirt. No, right? So there is like, so that kind of a thing. And AI is something that can happen anywhere, right? It can be on your computer, it can be on your, anything. So I think again, so there will be a lot of hedging that will happen in the tech space. But what will really click is that when it is able to solve a problem. And AI solves millions of problems on a daily basis, right? As in millions of different problems. I'm not even talking about individuals. Like problem of knowledge, problem of computing, problem of finding solutions, problem of big data. The possibilities are endless. How it's going to be different, uh, as in the most successful products will be where you're actually going to solve real life problems. You can't really show people a dream and ask them to come here and enjoy yourself. That, I think, unless that is really going to make create value for the user, I don't think it's going to work.
So great point. And let me add the same thing what you said right now. So just to add the same point. Do you think when the consumer also slightly changed in the sense you said that the company's product life cycle is now in days. Okay, so you don't know what's going to happen next. The technology may change, the device may change. It also because maybe they are not able to give the kind of that experience which some of the legendary products have created once. For example, the first MacBook, let's say, the first iPod which came out, or we don't see those things anymore. But even if now the last iPhone 15 came out, 15, 15 came out, now people are talking about iPhone 16 when it's going to be launched. I mean, is there a gap in terms of the companies are able to provide you the best in technology, but the experience still is limited? In the sense, people are not feeling that wow factor, which you said right in each of the product they buy. I mean, I hope I'm trying to make a point here.
Yeah, no, it is a fair point, but look at it another way, right? When Steve Jobs showed the world the iPhone in 2007, they did not know they needed a product like this. They did not know what that experience would be. They use it and they're blown away because suddenly, 20 things they own is redundant. Everything is available on your phone, right? From the camera to the music player to, again, lots of things, right? Scanners, for instance, right? Who uses a scanner anymore? You just use an app to click a photo and, so a lot of those things just became redundant. But that product is done. Now you can just keep adding on to that product. So the first time the experience will always be awful. Like it's the first time you watched a Marvel movie, it's blown away. Now we have done 100 Marvel movies. Like, you are going to the theater to sleep, right? Basically, because it's like it's very difficult after that, right? So you again, so which is why I kept saying the next big thing in the smartphone space will not be a smartphone, because it will be an experience that will take you away from the experience that you are used to. And it is nothing to say that the product is wrong, is not good enough. The product is superb, but your expectations have exceeded, right? Your expectations are because you only now. So one big problem that has happened, and I've spoken to a lot of companies and leadership people in the computing space and all, who tell me one big problem, right? You went home during COVID. Everybody went home. Most people were working on their own devices. Let's say you had a Windows PC in your workplace, so just given to you. You never complained. You know that's what you will get. You went back home. At home, you had a MacBook, right? You were working on the MacBook. You worked on the MacBook for a year. Suddenly, you come back to your old office desktop after 18 months. You can't work on it, right? So that experience, and again, you're connected because you were working from home. You spent money on broadband. Like I had two broadbands. Like, just in case the first one fails, I have a backup in a broadband. Because I don't want to stop working. So your experiences were is what you had paid for and what is always the best that you want, right? And then suddenly when you go into an office environment or an institutional environment, you're in a college or a school, what they provide to you is not good enough. Suddenly there was a lot of pressure on institutions across the world to amp up the experience, right? Which is where suddenly work for the BYOD concept, which has been driven for many years, was never really picking up, suddenly got a lot of support, and the company said, you buy what you want because I cannot match up to your experience expectations, right? And again, suddenly companies figured out that so usually when you're at the experience level, what a PC company would give to you in an office environment is very different from what you would buy for personal use, right? In office environment, a lot of things are sort of, a lot of corners are cut in favor of improving the security and durability and the 24/7 operation operability of a device, right? So if you buy a home device is not made to be used 24 hours a day for 5 years. It is made technically for 8 to 10 hours kind of usage, right? But it has other experiences which are superior, like the camera might be superior, like the touch and feel of the device might be superior. But when people got used to that, like coming, so companies, so if you see now, a lot of the workstations that are coming out are more at par with what you would see in the individual user space. right? So this kind of a, so it's very, again, so I think companies are now playing catch up to the expectation of experience from the users, right? Very tough, because users suddenly so like, again, your smartphone is a very, very powerful device, right? And suddenly, if you look at it, your computer is not that powerful a device. You get 24 hours battery life or 36 hours battery life on a smartphone, but still your laptops are giving you 7 to 8. Laptops are giving you 7 to 8 hours of battery life, right? So the expectation is very different. You are expecting, like, you are asking why, like for instance, we were all on Zoom calls, right? Um, you know, I am using a device which has a full HD camera, but most laptops don't have full HD cameras when even your cheapest smartphone is giving you maybe a full HD front facing camera. People are asking why on a 60, 70,000 rupee device, you cannot give me a full HD camera. Isn't that a basic? Why should I spend 2,000 rupees extra to buy an add on camera? Right now, all these things are making compute, like, a lot of companies rethink their product because the expectations post COVID have changed, and we are going to be in this hybrid kind of an environment for maybe the remaining. A lot of companies are coming back to full work from office, but still, I think the flexibility will be there, which means you will always have some level of hybrid workforce, right? So again, I think it's more to do with experience or expectation of experience than what the products themselves not being good enough.
Okay. Okay. Just to add to that, because you also mentioned a very important point that the company's main job is to solve problems. At least the technology's main job is to solve problems. Now I'm shifting gear here on the same context. Do you really feel that the last, okay, let me put it this way. Last 20 years, Indian and global, do you think in the last 10 years, especially, majority of the companies who have raised funds, no, I'm not talking in a negative way, but are actually not grasping a real cutthroat problem to solve. I mean, what I'm trying to tell you is that majority of the company, if you look at it, when we're doing a research, general academic research, and we came out that, out of the thousands of companies who registered as a startups, and at least a very substantial amount of them have raised certain amount of funds. Some of them became very successful, no doubt. But if you look at the life cycle, how much time they remained at the peak and when they came down, it all somehow looks like it all did not work because the kind of problem they were trying to solve was actually not Earth's most important matter. I mean, in the sense, I mean, that's the reason why the hype when it came out. I mean, I will give you a lecture. There are very large number of companies who raised funds during COVID, and the major factor for them was COVID. So COVID went out, and they also went out
Yeah,
of the car. So,
yeah,
but if you look at the last 10 years, it's exactly the same. Except, let me give you the successful, like Oyo. I mean, that's a successful. I understand. Ola, I understand. I mean, that's but not very, or Flipkart, let's say. I understand, but not all of them were able to grasp a cutthroat problem. What is your view? Because you may be interviewing many of them, and some of them you might have interviewed who may not have lasted. I mean, after once you
yeah.
have interviewed after 5 years. So, what is your view on that? Because if you look at Reliance, Tata, all those things, they're not startups I know, but somehow the longevity is also because they're also trying to take the core pillar business of the country. I mean, which is the hardcore need or oxygen for us in a way.
Yeah.
But if you look at the startup environment, because as a definition, they should be working on an idea. I mean, look at the Steve Jobs era, or look at the Microsoft era, all of them. Uh, don't you think we are missing something in the Indian landscape on that aspect? Look, the more the startups are coming in, we don't see a real cutthroat problem they're working on. And also because the investors don't have patience. I mean, if they have a good hardcore problem, it may take 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they don't have patience. They want to have a problem which can be solved in 2 years or 3 years, so that they can come out of the market and start getting the revenue. Maybe that also might be the reason why they are not focusing on. But are you really sure you feel the dearth of startups who are actually working on a hardcore problem?
Yeah, so again, in fact, I used to report on startups for a couple of years when I was in Business Today, and I met a lot of Indian startups, right? And one thing, and I've met a lot of Indian startups, maybe often helmed by Indians in the US and in some other parts of the country, like, other parts of the world, especially in Europe and all. See, and I've spoken very openly about this over the years. Is that one thing? See, it is a fact that the startups that last are the ones that have solved a problem. Let's be very clear on it. Otherwise, you are not. You might be a flash in the pan. You might be just as you said, the COVID thing, right? Millions of many companies came out, made millions of dollars, but they were solving for that moment. They didn't have a product for the post-COVID environment, right? One of the exceptions is Zoom, for instance, right? Zoom was already there. It just became such a big thing during COVID because everybody was on it. Now it is struggling, but but it still solves a problem, right? It is a very easy to use video conferencing software at the end of the day. And if you have used, like I've used many over the years, like from Blue Jeans to WebEx and all of them, the ease of using Zoom is still unparalleled. You go on a Google Meet now and you will realize what I'm talking about. Try and do a screen share on a Google Meet and you know how difficult it is compared to Zoom. It's not difficult if you look at what you used to do 10 years ago. You couldn't screen share 10 years ago, right? But still Zoom has got it so just gets it, right? And because of that, it has survived the post COVID slide in user base, right? But the successful ones are those who solve a problem. And I'll tell you my experience when I talk to a company or sit down with, let's say, a founder in in a coffee shop somewhere in California. I have spoken to companies maybe 5 6 years back. They know very clearly that there is a problem that want to solve. They still don't have a product launched because they're still trying to solve the same problem. And suddenly you will see that they have got the magic sauce and they are suddenly become big, right? Because they are waiting to solve that problem. They don't want to say that we have solved the problem by not actually solving the problem. But sadly, when you speak to most of the founders in India, they are trying to do what somebody else has done before. Right? Their USP is it cost you $100 million, that I'll do it at $1 million because I'm sitting in India. That is the only USP, right? And you have not thought of why people will use you, or like that but there is a lot of, and again one thing, it is not that much now, but let's say a few years back when you would talk to Indian companies, I would always get the sense that they are working to exit. That is the goal. The product is not the goal. The goal is that at some point I'll get an X amount of valuation, I'll exit, I'll buy my Ferrari and I'll retire at the age of 35, right? So that mentality was there. I think it's changed a lot in the past few years because we have very successful Indian companies now which have solved a problem, which which have really gone through the slogging, has solved a problem, but they're still few and a few and far in between, right? They are not the norm. But if you go to Silicon Valley, that is the norm, right? And I think maybe the VC funds need to be also questioned on why a lot of them have found valuation when they've really not solved a problem, right? As in, you. So, but again, you are just thinking as a VC fund, you are thinking they will catch the momentum and they will cash out. So VC fund is also just like putting it on a so they are looking at it like maybe a 3 year kind of a fixed deposit kind of thing, right? That you will, they are again not thinking about a long term kind of a play.
So now let me slide. My question is something else, but I want to ask you something for us, for the students, and we all want to know as a query. Uh, what is the, generally I'm asking, so I don't want a controversial answer. What is the return for a venture capitalist to invest in the startup? Because I see a lot of them are risk-taking investments they do, and so, like WeWork scandal, which you see recently, and all those things. So, what motivates them to put the money into a startup and uh,
Can you hear me, Akhil?
Yeah. So these things happens.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just want to have a
Akhil, yeah, yeah, could you repeat your question? I lost most of it.
no problem, sir. No problem. I think I also lost a lot of things. But anyways, what I'm asking is, what is the incentive for a VC to keep investing? I mean, see a lot of VC funds which I see, which they are investing in 24 startups. And after 10 years, if you look at, there's only hardly one or two startups out of them which really worked out well. So what is the mechanism? I mean, why they keep investing in such a high risk principle? I mean, like SoftBank or many of them I see, it's a complete high risk stuff. The banks will not give you that kind of loans for these kind of companies. I mean, without any principal understanding of exactly what they will do after 5 years. And
So this is something that's flummoxed me also. But see, over the years, I have interacted very little with VCs as so because I was always interacting with the other side, like because I was always focused more on the tech side. But I think again, a lot of it is just thinking that you will get returns and fast is my sense. But I also met VCs who have a long-term vision, right? There are people, and again, it depends on the nature of the fund, right? What is the sort of the charter of the fund, right? Like a lot of funds are looking at maybe creating an impact in a certain kind of a space. Maybe it could be environment, it could be learning, it could be knowledge, it could be it could be India focused, they're looking to create an impact over a period of time. In such cases, then your vision on what kind of companies you need to invest in also changes, right? But a lot of the other VCs are just there, they want to make a quick buck, is the sense that I've got. But again, a lot of individuals, angel investors that I've spoken to have a vision which is much beyond what uh, about it's beyond making money, right? It's about they sort of believe in the concept, or believe in the product, or believe in the founder, and they just go ahead backing it, and they stay they stay invested for long. They are not there to exit, or yeah. But again, this is not something that I can say that I know very well on the yeah, but that is something that I have always wondered about.
yeah. So, I mean, now a lighter note question, and then we will go to a serious question after this. So, lighter
Yeah,
note question is, if you look at the internet era, the Google, Facebook, everything, I think the smartphone convergence is what changed the world completely. As you also said the same thing, especially
yeah.
the iPhone, when people saw that everything I can do here and then, I don't need anything else anymore. Don't you think that's exactly what you're missing in currently? If you look at blockchain, metaverse, AI, my limited understanding, I'm feeling that they actually need to merge in the future. I mean, everything has to coexist. It's like one's disadvantage is the other's advantage. I mean, blockchain can help you with the governance, metaverse gives you a virtual world, AI is what gives you the environment and the sense of interaction, etc. But they're all working in different directions, and that's the reason you see one is, and that's the reason you see incompleteness in all three of them, in some way or the other.
Yeah.
So do you
Again,
think that
if you
convergence
talk about
merging?
blockchain, I think the problem is what you said, your limited understanding, right? So everybody has limited understanding about blockchain. So which suddenly means that you're not going to think about it a little bit, more seriously than you should, right? And if you look at these three things that you mentioned, only AI has a customer facing product.
Absolutely.
Blockchain is solving a B2B problem. People don't care about those kind of problems, right? And only AI is actually, and metaverse, God knows if it's solving a problem. It's right now, it seems like a nightmare you would buy a ticket to, right? Like, why would I really haven't been able to figure out that thing. And again, it's nothing new, right? Almost 20 years back, there used to be something called Second World, Second Life.
Second life, second life.
And people used to go there and enjoy, play their games and all. So it is and again, if you look at Roblox and all of these things which kids play on, it is there. But do you really need to take it to the next level? And is it going to help people in any way? Right. That, and again, I think it was also a COVID bubble, right? Because you are stuck in your homes, and if you're in New York and you're in a single bedroom or a single room kind of an apartment, you really want to escape, but you can't. So you're trying to create a virtual escape route for people. And I think post COVID, one thing people don't want to is to be stuck in a bubble of any kind. right? People are, I think, exploring the world more. People are stepping out more, that like that 18 months, locked up. I think most people are now doing the exact opposite of that. So I think as a concept that metaverse is really not solving anything, right? AI is solving a lot of things. It has a consumer facing thing, and which is where I think out of these three, I would bet more on AI right now.
No, but my question is, I think, okay, let me put it in my view. Uh, so let's say metaverse. So in metaverse, I think the whole definition kept changing in last 20-25 years.
Yeah.
See, the VR gaming was already there. It was never called metaverse. But I think the actual definition of metaverse was there's an augment of virtual reality, but also governed by something which help you to do the transaction, controlling the policies inside it, etc., which was somehow triggered with the blockchain because smart contract was possible and people go inside it, they can buy land, they can do the banking, they do the transaction, record is possible without having a central entity to control it. That's how triggered that metaverse that it can be virtual world tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah.
Secondly, a metaverse is a single entity. You cannot have Apple metaverse, Microsoft metaverse, Facebook metaverse. It's like www, right? The web world. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like Apple has a different web world and you have a Google has a different web world. It was supposed to be a big world in which there are different islands of companies to work together. Now, when every company wanted to make a different direction, and what happened is because we used to talk to many metaverse companies. They started with blockchain. It became very expensive, so they said let's sell the VR. And when they start selling the VR to the consumer, that's where what you said exactly what the outcome was. Because people said it's just like an escape to virtual world. Sometimes you get excited, you play the game and come back again, and you don't
Yeah.
understand what's the significance of it. And somehow, let's say AI. So you say AI has a consumer product, which is absolutely true. But I feel blockchain is the pathway by which you can see which is the fake and which is the original one. I mean, the sense maybe
True. True. Yeah. Yeah.
most of the cryptos which or the videos which come out, at
Yes.
least
Yeah.
blockchain you give you the source and ownership of the product,
The
which
authentication,
the authentication. So I feel that's where the blockchain gets a really good application.
Yeah.
AI is what the consumer wants to say, and metaverse is a culmination of all three, where you can do the banking, etc., e-commerce,
Yeah.
etc. in the
Yeah.
virtual world. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you look at all three different directions,
Yeah. Yeah. So
then
it
the issue
will
starts.
see. So in my view, it will work only if things are built one on top of the other. Like the blockchain
Absolutely.
has to be the core layer on
Okay.
which you build a metaverse, which is maybe powered by AI. As in the
Absolutely.
intelligence
Absolutely.
part is AI, right? But it's not
Absolutely.
working like that. And again, every company I have spoken to regarding metaverse has its own metaverse, right? And again, this
It's
problem has been there. So again, with a lot of new technologies over the years, this problem has emerged. Like if you look at home automation, right? Home automation started in many bubbles. Then they came up with a standard. Like you talk like you look at wireless, right? Wireless also finally had to be standardized. That you create that kind of a that somebody has to take the take the bull by the horn and say that okay, we are going to standardize it, right? Now, because unless all of this starts talking to each other, it will be like you get out of one metaverse, go into another metaverse. So it's like pointless. It's so much of effort, right? And again, that entire concept of doing that handshake virtually and all is not going to happen at all, right? It will be like having multiple malls in like one locality,
and
and
more
one thing is
expensive
available in
malls.
one mall. Yeah,
Yeah, and more expensive malls. I mean, the
more
sense
expensive
if you,
malls. Yes,
I
yes.
mean, right now if you look at MacBook and Windows, it is still not as expensive as buying a Facebook Quest 3 and then Apple has another
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
headset, and I know both of them are going to give exclusive content. Facebook will have
yeah,
its own content which will not work in Apple. I mean, that
yeah.
may not work at all. I mean, it will be more expensive to the consumer. Anyways, so I mean, that was the lighter question that I think all three has
Yeah.
to look at in one angle. Then it makes sense. Like you
Yes.
said, blockchain is a backend stuff. It can never have product. And the problem with individual companies is they want to look at a consumer product from blockchain, which is not going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not going to see it at
And
all.
again, just to give you one interesting context, the first augmented reality product that I used was around 2007-8, which was from HP. It was a goggle you could wear to watch movies, and then you would still see what's happening around you. You could browse the internet, all of that. 2007-8. Okay, and
Okay.
I was there when the first virtual reality goggles in the world was launched, which was the product called HTC Vive, which is in
HTY.
2013. I was in Barcelona when it was launched. I went exclusively for this, right? And see again, so it's taken so many years and it's still not got anywhere, right? You had 100 rupee Google Cardboard headset you could
Yeah,
sort of get and put your smartphone in and all of that. Despite all of that, in so many years, so almost 15 years, it's not gone anywhere, right? It's really not broken into the, you really now, even now, have to go to a mall with a gaming center in it to try out. It's not something, even in the 80s, if you look at it, like, when gaming sets in India were very expensive, had to be imported, you could walk into a friend's house and they had it. Right? Maybe you didn't have it, but somebody in your locality had it. We have still not reached that situation with either AR or VR, which I think is its biggest problem, right? It is not, it is
and
still, and again, I don't think it is just a pricing problem. I think it is also a larger usability problem.
absolutely. Even the headset is bulky. I mean, it's not
No, no, even
easy to
otherwise,
have.
you see, I cannot wear any of these headsets for more than 5 minutes, right? Because in 5 minutes, I start feeling a little bit dizzy. And then if
Yeah,
I wear it for 5 minutes, the rest of my day is horrible, right? When I'm at a stair, like, I lose my orientation a little bit. I feel a little bit nauseous and all of that. There'll be a lot of people who don't have these problems, but I think it is still the way it is there still. It cannot be used naturally, right?
mm,
I think it will happen naturally when, like, you in your goggles you have a chip which activates a layer of laser or something like that, right? It has to happen where you are instead of being a new product.
okay, okay, fair enough. So I think this was a good discussion. So I want the core point. The core point is, as society is moving more towards transformation, you have AI coming in. As you said very rightly, that AI will be spread across everything you see. That's what Andrew
Yeah.
and Gina said. So, where is the consumer privacy in data security? All these stands right now. I'll tell you why. I tell you why. I'm not asking what companies are doing. Everybody consumes a lot of things, but there's still a reliability issue. In the sense, recently, I mean, there was an article I was reading, and I came to, and that article really put a point. Twitter used to tell that, their data is secure and everything, and all of a sudden, one day, Twitter was acquired by Elon Musk. I mean, and so he's the owner of your data. I mean, there was an article which was there discussing that, Elon Musk can decide the election in America because what I'm trying to tell you is that with more IoT coming in, more than anything else, IoT is coming in. Your behavior, data, everything is going to different devices every single time. Now we are talking about metaverse or anything. Yeah, all things are actually your whole data is going to. So is there a guiding policy or principle I think the country or the global world is thinking on? You might be going to different forums and everywhere, which people might be having discussion on this. Exactly how we are able to do that. I mean, look at from perspective. I think this last 1 year we are observing, पहले भी होगा, but I'm just last 1 year we are observing. We are talking to friends verbally, and I get the same ad in my in my phone.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's not dangerous at that point, but at least that gives a consciousness that Google or anybody knows more about me than me myself, because I may be
absolutely.
consciously subconsciously talking a lot of things, but they trace me every single time. So I can't stop it. I know that I can't stop it. People may say that no, it's possible. I don't think I can stop it. I can last. I remember 2016, 15 when Facebook and Google had some data uh, case in going on in court, and I saw that conversation the way it happened. Court was not able to understand how the internet works when
Yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
and Google were trying
Yes.
to give. So I also understand the law is going behind. It can't keep pace with the technology which is going so fast, even if you can give all the policies. So where we stand, what is the conversation in the industry happening on these contests?
Yeah, so there is again a lot of conversations happening because it's not happening in one centralized thing. You have Europe taking the lead on a lot of these things, right? And it has always taken the lead. And you will see how what Europe does sort of becomes the base for which again what you're talking about is nothing new, right? So you are talking about Elon Musk and 2024 election, but there is enough there are enough studies and everything on how Facebook impacted the 2016 election in the US, right? It is yeah, I have spoken about it like over the years, but it's an old topic now, right? So how it can manipulate the masses, right? Because the masses are on this thing and all of that. Maybe it is not as effective as it used to be, because see, Facebook, most of those younger audiences and all, they're not on Facebook, right? A lot of I think Twitter also in the past year has lost its edge, right? Starting from the fact that it's not Twitter anymore, right? So it's lost its edge. Can it dictate, matters in a country like India and all? Maybe in the US, but not. I think in India, it's not as effective as it used to be before, right? Again, and see, also with everything, toxicity and all of that, people lose interest after a point, right? If you're not there, it's not solving a problem. What's why again that same old thing, right? What is it doing, right? Facebook, still people go there because you are connected with a lot of your friends and family. Via Facebook, you can see what's happening in your cousin's life who's in the US, and like those kind of things are there. So it's still a place where, and again, if you see, people are not doing, much else on Facebook anymore, right? And even there, like, the number of people commenting on your posts and all have gone down drastically. You would see that happen much more on LinkedIn, which is again a different bubble. So again, they've all evolved so much that I don't know whether they're effective in that sense anymore. But the fact is that they all have so much data, right? So a good friend and somebody who I think is a very good security expert in India, Saket Modi, he once told me that he doesn't keep any of these apps on his phone. It doesn't mean that he doesn't use Instagram or Facebook or anything. What he does is every time he has to log into Instagram, he logs onto it using a browser on the phone and logs out after that. Right. So again, it is a question of how much you're going to balance convenience against your fear of data being misused. Right. If
that also, but that I'm so sorry cutting here, but that
yeah,
also means that that guy, because he's an expert in security, he knows that browser can be used. But
yeah.
90% of the consumer may not
Yeah,
even know
most
that.
people don't know about it. Most people don't know about it. And again, I know about it, right? I understand why he does it, and I agree with him. But I still use the app because I find it much more convenient. Like every time I have to log in, I have to remember my password. It's a hassle, right? You're not going to get into it. Most people won't. But there are ways to get around it. When your app is there, the app, without you knowing, you have given permission for the app to do a lot of things, right? You would have maybe, first time you set up Facebook 15 years ago, given Facebook access to your mic. Why? You never use the mic on your Facebook app, but you've given it access to your mic, right? Which means it can listen when needed. And that experience that you're saying, that like seeing ads about, things that you're talking about, has happened to me many times, right? And unless it gets into a creepy level, it is already creepy, but like, where you think it's really now infringing onto your personal. Now, let's look at it in a different way. I keep giving this example. I'm diabetic, for instance, right? And maybe Google knew I'm diabetic way before I got diagnosed with diabetes, because my searching pattern is going to give it all the indicators that I'm a diabetic, right? For instance, if you have depression, you don't realize you have depression, but the way you use Facebook knows that you have depression, maybe. Now, based on this knowledge, look at the kind of ads that are being served to you, right? What are the ads coming to you? And if you're seeing like a fitter fly kind of an ad on your go get yourself checked for diabetes. Most probably you have diabetes. Google knows it, you don't. Right? So because there is that power of data, and now see what you can understand from this data is changing exponentially day on day because of AI, right? Now, just as an experiment, if you have access to a paid ChatGPT account, upload a very large data set, CSV or Excel sheet or whatever. Ask it some random question, right, which you cannot see from the sheet, and in a second, it's going to give you an answer. It's going to blow your mind on the kind of insight it has on data, right? And it can, whatever the size of the data set, millions of users, it's still be able to do these kind of things. Maybe it takes a few seconds more, right? But it's going to able to give you that kind of pattern. See, the beauty about AI is that it can see a lot of things humans can't, because of the visibility of large data sets, and the patterns that only emerge in large data sets, right? Like there are studies from many years ago which says that Google knows if a certain part of the world is going to have let us say um, a flu, a flu outbreak, because it's seeing symptoms of people, searching for pre-flu kind of things, right? And if thousands of people in one locality suddenly start searching for it, you be sure that this is going to happen, right? So again, it is all based on our behavior, right? And now with AI coming in, there is so much of visibility. Now the question is, how do you regulate it? The regulation has to always keep that balance in mind. Is Are there good things emerging out of companies, smart companies knowing your data? And is that data going to be misused? But misuse of any kind, if you ask me, has to be cracked down. There cannot be no space for misuse, right? And there cannot be no space for using data without consent, right? And again, it has to be, again, I sort of agree that it has to be explicit consent. I have given my consent for this. You use it only for that. That is how the GDPR rules play out, right? And I sort of agree that that is how it has to be. Because I gave my data for one thing, you can't use it for another thing, and benefit out of it, right? And again, so so there are layers in that data visibility, right? So if you are looking at unidentifiable data, as in you cannot really identify the user of that data, you're looking at larger clusters of data. I think all of that should be okay, because that is again giving you a lot of insight. It is going to help the society at large at some point. But again, every country should have had that regulation in place at least 2 years back,
Yeah. But I also
right?
feel even if you have a regulatory policy or the policy for of monitoring these things, we should also have tech backup for that. Okay, let me put it straight. How can I monitor Facebook? I just cannot do that. I mean, I be sure that I know how to monitor that. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I mean, the data traveling from one server to another server for them, uh, technologically, is so advanced that how can a regulator can monitor that? My question, not to you, I mean, for everybody is the same thing.
Yeah, but
What is
see,
the way a regulator does it?
no, if they have the technology to move data from one server to the other without being monitored, the same technology can be used to create monitors, right? So
True,
it is
true.
just a
That's
question of
true.
intent. It's not an
So I
ability
think,
question.
yeah. So I
But
think
again,
the
see the
regulator has to
way
work
a
with the
lot of
companies. That's what I'm trying to say.
but the way a lot of countries like the US and all look at these things is a very different from like how we would look at it, right? They usually have a laissez-faire, hands-off kind of an approach, right? That unless it is going to break a law, we will not get into it, right? So, and then, unless you have a law which can be broken, see, a lot of companies are using that window that we are in an unregulated environment because the regulation is being worked upon, right? And that is, I think, what a lot of people cash in on. A lot of products are made to cash in on that.
True, very true, very true, very true. And not only for technology, I think any sector in India, if you look at it, the
Yes,
regulator
yes.
always comes
And,
later.
no,
The sector has already
and not
developed.
just India, not just India, across the world. There is, and that window might be shorter in the US, right? Because US and all is relatively faster at coming up with laws for emerging technologies, right? We have this way of thinking: we will do it late, we will learn from everybody, we will do like Ambedkar did, we will learn read through 10 constitutions and make a great constitution. That is, but usually that gives a lot of opportunity for people to misuse things. Like, I was in a panel 2 days back on a Financial Express panel where we were discussing regulation of deepfakes, right? We know deepfakes are a problem yet. Nobody has still, so it'll keep happening, right? And in a very crucial election year where deepfakes can be and you have seen uh, already, like there are you're getting video calls which are impersonating police officers and like are trying to take away money. And a lot of people are losing money every day. Newspapers are full of stories on people losing money with deepfake calls, right? And the government has still not acted on it.
Makes sense, makes sense. So, okay. So now let me summarize what all the things and then go to the last bottom line questions. Two questions we
Okay,
have, and we'll
okay,
close it. I know you have taken so much time, sir. So thank you so much for
no
that.
problem.
So, but I will. Rashid, so we had discussed about the last 20 years landscape. We also discussed about why the startups and all those things are not able to solve problems. I think majority of them are not able to focus on the problem rather than a big idea, focus on problem. And that is not was seen visibly a lot on. We also discussed why there are a lot of emerging technologies coming up, but AI still looks much better in terms of, because they are faced to the consumer. I mean, compared to the metaverse and blockchain and other things. And obviously AI has a long way to go. I mean, that's what we can at least hope for. Now we also discuss about the consumer privacy, that why the companies need to focus on that, and it also becomes a very important point. So, with your experience and conversation with most of the technology leaders, because ultimately we are a university, so we tackle students. So, so my question to you is, what looks to be a future leader, and what kind of skills are very crucial for being a future leader in the next 10, 15 years or 20 years, where any sector they will be dealing with technology, no matter what, whatever the way the world is going to be. I mean, gone are the eras when I can say a finance is a finance sector, HR is a HR sector. It's fintech, no matter
Yeah.
what. That's how it is. I mean, you can't change that. So anybody who is even somebody who has no science background in the 12 is still working in the tech sector. I mean, I mean, I just
I have an
met you
economics
for,
economics
yeah,
degree.
yeah,
I
I
don't
know for,
understand most technology, yeah? So
yeah,
that is how I approach
no,
my
but
reviews also.
yeah, but you understand technology. I mean, your conversation really shows. Maybe with years of experience, you have literally gone into it. But that is required for everyone now. I mean, what I'm trying to say.
Yes, yeah.
So, what is the next? I mean, what kind of future leaders you see in the next 10 to 20 years? What kind of skills are really required to prepare for the next emerging world which you see?
See, I think uh, the skill that you need to have most is adaptability, right? See, because like I passed out in 99 with a economics degree, and I maybe studied what the teacher who was teaching me also studied. The same thing, we all did. My best friend has a doctorate in economics from IIT Kanpur, and we discussed that we had maybe one module which was new. And in fact, I know for a fact my HOD in my department used to teach the same notes that he had made in class, right? Because nothing had changed with microeconomics or macroeconomics. It was the same fundamentals, right? You were just regurgitating the same for every year, students every year. We had one section which was new, which is basically called it was called econometrics, which was the convergence of economics and mathematics, right? And that was the one thing that we needed, that sort of opened up our minds on what are the possibilities, right? I did not pursue my economics things, though it is still a topic very close to my heart. But the interesting thing is that economics has changed so much, right? Every subject has changed so much. It will change faster, even faster now, because it is also impacted by everything that's happening around the world, right? And that adaptability of being open to learning new things is, I think, the biggest skill you would need, right? And which means that your core skill doesn't have to be that strong. If you, as in, you don't need to be a great mathematics mind, you don't need to be a great, you just need to have the ability to learn a new thing and adapt and use it fast. If you're very stubborn with your with your knowledge and all, I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem, right? You have to understand that your learnings from one time are not in context anymore, right? Because it's changed so much, right? Like like if you look at uh, uh, you know if you look at a lot of the political thought has not moved with time. You're reading a 200-year-old document of what was created to respond to a certain time, but it's not relevant now. Where it's become relevant is when it is adapted, and it is like it moved with the times. Look at China, for instance, right? It's adapted, it's learned, it's learned to be, it's looking ahead. So I think the biggest skill would be that adaptability. And see, the beauty of the times we live in is that you can learn anything anytime from anywhere. We could not do that anymore, right? Like you can just go on to YouTube or LinkedIn or just get a new skill and even get a certificate for it, right? You would go to LinkedIn and see somebody put out a certificate. I've got a certification in something. right? And that is a great point, right? Like, and again, it might not be as good as being in an in-class environment, but you still can skill up, right? And reskill through your career. And I think that is very important. I think that is the biggest skill, and to understand that you don't have to do everything yourself. You can get the technologies and the people to do things for you, but you have to be open to doing that. And again, if you talk to a lot of leaders across the world, one main thing that is like, that I've heard from multiple people is this constant debate between build versus buy, right? Do you build something in house, or do you buy something that you are not good at, right? And there's always a cost to buy, but people are now thinking that maybe we should not get into things that are not our core competence. And I'm hearing that more and more. And this is coming after having burnt your fingers trying to do things that you're not good at, right? Let us just invest in what we are good at and get better and better at it, and become the best at it, than spreading ourselves thin by doing so many things that we are not good at, right? So, and again, this is again, I think, a leadership call, right?
Great
That
point.
how do you adapt to that situation, because there is so much out there. It's not possible for you to learn or do all of this. So just be flexible enough to do the right thing at the right time.
So, okay, that's a really great tip for our students as well. Not for students, I think whoever is going to see in the video by the video. So, thank you so much, sir, for giving us the time and energy so much. And to be very frank, more than me, it was you who were putting more effort in the webinar. So, thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
seriously. And seriously, it was a really good conversation. And I'm not trying to fake it, but I will be using this conversation for most of the, online classes as well, because there are a lot of conversation which we had a very good important point for to debate and understand exactly for the discussion with the students as well. So thank you so much, sir, for coming. And
Thank you. My pleasure. Happy
I may
to
disturb you again,
chime
may
in
not be
again if
now, but
needed.
yeah. Please. I will disturb you again because I really feel this conversation has to go second part as well. And